Hello and welcome to the Gold Newsletter. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the @JR Mining Guy on Twitter and the CEO of the SOAR Financial Group. And of course, your host for this company introduction today. Gold just broke through $2,200 last night. So it's time for a company update or a company introduction that is gold focused, of course. Really looking forward to speaking here in a few short seconds with Marco Roque. He's the president and CEO over at Cassiar Gold. Company already has a resource out, 1.4 million ounces in British Columbia. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with him. What are the plans this year? Where's the opportunity? What are the challenges as well? I think that's more of a rhetorical question because looking at the juniors, the challenges are quite obvious, right? So, but we'll see if Marco has any other challenges he needs to battle and fight with. And we'll see how we can make money on this. Quite honestly, this is why we're doing it. We're trying to figure out, is this a story that we can invest in, and trying to get some information to you, the investor, to make informed decisions. Of course. Now, without further ado, hit that subscribe button and let me bring my guest on. Marco, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Kai.
Absolutely, Marco. No, really appreciate it. Thanks so much. But as always, and our viewers know that, we start with a quick high-level company introduction, 30, 60 seconds. Why don't you quickly introduce Cassiar to us?
Sounds good. So Cassiar Gold is a Canadian gold explorer, and we're focused on our flagship asset by the same name, the Cassiar Gold Project, which is actually a past-producing district. We control the entire Cassiar Gold District, 59,000 hectares, a lot of historical production, and a lot of potential. We have a 1.4 million ounce resource at 1.14 grams per ton, inferred right at surface. That's a Taurus deposit, which we've been expanding quite successfully. That resource is from a couple of years ago. We've been expanding quite successfully around that deposit, and we also have the past producing Cassiar South high grade vein system, where a lot of underground high grade production has come from in the past. And it's a district that, because it's past producing, comes not only with a wealth of infrastructure, including a fully owned and permitted mill, underground workings, highway access, camp, power and water access, you name it, but also two mine ZEC permits already in place, which we all know are not very easy to get, especially in a province like British Columbia. So we're very, very blessed as well on that front.
Oh, absolutely. No, fantastic introduction there, Marco. And we'll dive a little deeper here in a second. One more question on the company introduction side is, of course, about share structure, capital structure, because that sort of sets the tone a little bit about what you can do this year as well.
Sounds good. So yeah, so we have just over 100 million shares. We have 104 million shares outstanding. As of yesterday, our market cap was roughly 25 million. We have just under 5 million in the bank as well. So pretty impressive, very attractive enterprise value as well.
Yeah, fantastic. How much cash do you have left, Marco?
We have just under five, so we're basically around 4 million at this point.
Okay, no, perfect. And any warrants in the money or anything that could add to the treasury or could be seen as an overhang or anything? Or are they so far out of the money that we don't have to worry about them?
They're really far out of the money. Most of our warrants are around the dollar. We have a few million warrants, like three or four around 50 cents, which is the lowest price one, and we're trading around 25, 26, 27 cents. So everything is really far out of the money, and a lot of them will expire actually this summer as well.
No, I'm not too worried about 50-cent warrants because if we hit 50 cents, we're in a decent market again, Marco. So quite positive on that. So that's why I like asking, because a lot of companies have warrants outstanding that are that can be capping the share price, but there's room to run here, of course. So that's good. I'm quite impressed actually by the roster of shareholders you have. 28% institutionally held. How did that come about for a little junior?
Well, one step at a time, really. I guess I joined 4 years ago and basically had no institutional shareholders at a time. And, in the last 4 years, we raised roughly around 35 million. We've drilled 55,000 meters. And we just kept on adding institutional names to our share registry as we progressed through the project. So we had names like US Global, Delbrooks, Sprott, Commodity Discovery Fund, Terra Capital out of Australia, and we just kept on adding throughout the years, and that's something that we've been trying to do since the beginning, which is institutionalize more the registry.
No, fantastic. No, it's quite impressive. I have to admit. At least the barrage of logos here on the PowerPoint, I don't see that too often. With a sub 30 million market cap junior exploration company. So that's quite impressive, Marco. But let's talk about the Cassiar Gold project. Let's start a bit with the history. Like you said, it's a past producer. So run us a bit through that. Who operated it, and of course, why isn't it operating anymore?
Sounds good. Actually, the history on this district is really long. In fact, the Cassiar Gold District started as a gold rush district in the late 1800s. So the largest ever found gold nuggets found in BC, in British Columbia, was found right at the heart of our property, 72-ounce solid gold nugget in 1872. Obviously, that started a gold rush. And a fast forward to the 1960s, 70s, you actually had multiple operators operating this district. You had multiple companies operating at the same time, including Total, the energy company. So we had actually throughout its history, there were three mills at this project. There's only one left, the one we currently own. There were several vein systems in production, several companies exploring, as well as several placer mining operations. So most of that historical production came from the underground high-grade veins in the south. So there were 150,000 ounces produced at the main mine at the grade just over 17 grams. There were 90,000 ounces produced at TSX with just over 20 grams per ton as well. Very, very high grade. And these are shear veins on average 3 meter wide, where most of that historical production has come from. And the veins are still there, and we've been extending that quite successfully. There was also kind of a very small production also before the 2000s at Taurus East mine. That's a small production. 35,000 ounces were produced there from our bulk tonnage area, although they kind of high graded as well. The average grade there was 3.8 grams per ton for that small production. And then, after that, in the late 2000s, what happened was a group called Hawthorne saw the opportunity of this district because the whole district was fragmented with this fragmented ownership. So they acquired the entire district, all the past producing mines and infrastructure, a lot of the exploration, all of the exploration projects as well, and then actually they tried to go into production. They basically try to go to production on the high grade underground veins, and they had a budget of just over $10 million to restart production. That's a 2010, 2011 budgets. They actually had a cost overrun when the gold price was collapsing in 2011, 2012. They couldn't refinance. There was a Chinese group that came in, spent just under 40 million, roughly 36 million on the project, continued to explore, advance the project, and kind of fast forward to 2019. That's when what is now Cassiar Gold optioned and eventually acquired the project 100% when I joined as CEO, which was in June 2020. So kind of a long story, and this is kind of summarized version.
No, there's as you said, there's a ton of history around that area and the projects, of course, as well. Maybe just a quick follow up as well. Back in 2019 when you acquired the projects, who'd you acquire them from, and what were the terms? Like, is there any royalties still left on the project?
Yeah, there is. So we acquired this in 2019. Effectively, it was an option agreement. It was effectively for equity. So basically, the company gave away half of the shares to Wild Sky Resources, which was the vendor of the project. We eventually acquired 100% of the project. We completed that in September 2020. And the property came with a NSR. There was an NSR on the small part of our project that covers a part of the resource as well as an area to the east of it with a 2.5% NSR. And that's it. That's the only NSR that we have. And we now own it 100%.
That NSR is not on the resource area, correct?
It's
like where
partially
you have
on
that
the US
current
area,
resource?
so so actually it's on the eastern part of the resource and an area to the east. It's
Yeah. No, just like the reason I'm asking such detailed questions about the royalties because it's a potential non-dilutive source of funding,
mhm.
right? So if you were to sell an additional resource on maybe the resource area or even the high grade southern part as well. So curious, is that something you're considering even?
Yeah, we have to consider everything, and but also we got to look into the value of what we can get out of there. I think it's much more valuable to try to sell an NSR when you have a well-defined and bigger resource, and that's really what we're doing. Like we're drilling to expand and to find more areas that eventually will convert to a resource in the future resource update, and then it can be a more valuable NSR to sell. So the key really is finding that mineralization and then making sure we get the most out of it because we know how prospective our ground is, and we definitely don't want to undersell that.
No, absolutely. And you have a bit of runway left, so you're not in desperation mode to sell a royalty to sort of get anything done or even stay listed, right? So we're not in that phase yet. So which is good. So and let's pray that you'll never get there as well. Fingers crossed. But let's break down the resource a bit. Let's break down the Cassiar Gold project in north and south as you've done as well. You have the resource in the north. The higher grade stuff is in the south. Question, of course, now is what is your focus? Do you want to see more higher grade results? Are you chasing grade or are you chasing ounces in the north? What's your preferred plan of action here, Marco?
Well, that's a question we do get a lot, and and the honest answer, we want both. We want all. So we've been, over the last few years, we've been, I think in total we drilled just under 180 drill holes, and that's 55,000 meters of drilling. And we only missed mineralization in two out of those 180 drill holes, or just under, I think, 175 drill holes in significant widths above the cutoff grade, which is zero point 0.5. So we've been quite successful. Most of the drilling, I would say, in the past few years, about 60% was into the Taurus area, so the resource area, or areas immediately outside. And we also drilled roughly 8,000 meters into the Cassiar, 18,000 meters into the Cassiar South area on the high-grade veins, extending the high-grade underground veins, the shear veins. And we also drilled actually just over 5,000 meters in some priority regional targets with which we see a lot of similarities with Taurus, and they're emerging as these kind of bulk tonnage targets that could be the future kind of Taurus-like deposits that could be other pits, and they might be connected to the Taurus deposit, although some of them are actually a few kilometers away. But we know how pervasive this mineralization is in this system that we have, so there's quite the potential here.
Yeah. Now, 1.4 million ounces in the inferred category. So the question is, of course, like what are the next steps on that resource? Are you planning to upgrade that resource, meaning to measure it and indicate it, or are you just planning to expand it at first before you increase confidence here?
Clearly expansion. So our goal really is expansion in mind. The Taurus deposit is open laterally in most directions and at depth. And the drilling we've done in the past few years really demonstrates that the whole system continues to be open as we step out. So our goal is really demonstrate that tonnage potential, so we can grow the ounces. And yeah, so it's been really living to the expectation. So our goal is to continue to grow the tonnage because our strategy really is to, as I say, great bear this thing. So you really have to demonstrate a potential. So our goal is to ultimately, and we know, looking at the prospectivity of our project, we know there's a very high chance, from the targets that we see, to build an inventory of 5 million ounce plus. So we need to keep on drilling to prove that up, as opposed to just try to upgrade 1, 2, or 3 million ounce deposit, which is quite attractive on its own, but given the size of our district and just pervasiveness of mineralization, it's not that hard to prove and demonstrate that tonnage, and that's really what we've been doing for the past few years.
Oh, absolutely. Like, do you have a size target in mind? I know it's a bit of an unfair question, but it sort of is directed or linked with the question I always like to ask is like, what is the business plan here, right? Like, what is the goal? What is a potential exit strategy as well? And to have that exit, you need to get to a certain size. I know it's difficult with 43101 codes, but you got to have an idea, right? You got to know what you're chasing. You got to know what the size of the price is there, Marco, right? So what is it you're chasing? What is the size?
Well, our goal is really to grow this. We put it into steps. The first step is just getting across the 2 million ounce mark, which is puts us in kind of in the league where a lot of the mid tiers and majors are looking for, which are looking for a minimum 2 million ounces, 200,000 ounces a year, 10 years mine life, and potentially more. Then there's this even more select group of major gold mining companies that are looking for 5 million ounce plus. And when we look at our projects, when we look at our targets, when we look at what we drilled and what we know at surface and what we have from geophysics, etc., and our understanding of the mineralization system, we know that the 5 million ounce target is really what we're aiming for. We know that it's more than achievable. Not to say that it's easy, because there's a lot of work in terms of raising capital, drilling, executing. But looking at the prospectivity of our project, our goal, with the little that we know, and we only properly evaluated roughly 5% of our land package, we know there's the potential for that 5 million ounce mark. But we need to get to work and prove that up through the drill bits. But we know that just on a small part of our land package, or just at the heart of our land package, we have that potential. Ultimately, who knows what the ultimate potential of this district is? But when I came to the project, and really what kind of really seduced me into this was a comparison to the Fosterville mining district. Maybe we have a Fosterville. Who knows? So we'll have to go through the motions and see what the drill bit says.
Oh, absolutely. No, Marco, you did a bit of napkin math here for us, like 2 million ounces, 200,000 ounces a year, 10 years. That's assuming, of course, 100% recovery. My brain went to metallurgy, right?
Mhm.
Have you done any metallurgical testing? Of course, there's quite a bit of historic data available already. So I'm just curious, like, have you done any additional met work, and what do the recoveries look like?
Yeah, we actually haven't as an operator. That's something that we have in mind, and we want to be focusing on. So we've done we've been doing petrographic and petrological work, and actually we're looking to work with the Western University in Canada to further progress our metallurgical work, VSIMS analysis, and cyanide solubles, and eventually bottle roll testing. So like we're doing geological domaining as well, and that's actually something we'll be advancing over the next 12 months. Having said that, then I think it's important to highlight this as well, because it is actually something that really gave me a lot of comfort. Is there's a lot of historical production. So that's actually one of the best metallurgical tests. So historically, for example, in the Cassiar South, there were 315,000 ounces of production on the mill that we currently have, that's fully owned and permitted. The average recoveries there were 93%. And there were also 35,000 ounces produced from the Torres East mine, which is within our bulk tonnage target right next to the Torres deposit. And there were 35,000 ounces produced there with a gravity flotation mill, with a cyanide circuit at the end. And the recoveries there were within the mid 80s. That's not to say that that's the recovery you should expect for the entirety of our resource or the entirety of our future resource. but it certainly gives a lot of comfort into what we know so far, and makes me very confident about the future metallurgical recoveries.
Yeah, absolutely. No, fantastic. Marco, let's talk a little bit about the future. I just skimmed through your press release schedule here on the website, and I couldn't see anything about 2024 plans yet. So I do have to ask you though, since I have you, like, what are the plans for 2024? Also, like, not just exploration plans, but what are the goals? Like, what are you trying to achieve by the year end? Like, we talked resource earlier, so is the plan maybe to update the resource after this season, or not trying to put words in your mouth, but what are the plans for this year, Marco?
Sounds good. So our goal is, really to continue to expand non-mineralization. So we're looking right now, budgeting and finalizing planning for a 5 to 10,000 meter program. As you know, and probably your viewers know as well, equities in the junior mining or gold mining space in general, in the junior mining gold mining space in particular, are extremely depressed. So that means that capital is expensive. So we need to be, very careful in the way we use our limited resources, in this case, capital. We'd love to have a 25,000 meter drill program, or even bigger, but we gotta, just be a little bit uh, uh, conservative, and gold is definitely heading in the right direction, but the equities haven't. So until that happens, we have to really be careful with dilution. So we really need to take one step at a time. Now, if we see, equities getting back to kind of a normal state, or even going into a mania, which is quite possible given where the metal prices are heading, we could potentially, raise a little bit more capital and obviously do more work, because that's how you advance the project. But our goal right now is really 5 to 10,000 meter program, continue to expand non-mineralization. As of now, in terms of the targeting, our thinking right now is still kind of looking at a balance between continuing to expand the areas immediately next to the resource, so continue to step out at the margins or very close to the resource area, while at the same time focusing on discovery and new targets, which we've been advancing and developing, and also enlarging, especially with the field work component we've done last year. We did quite a bit of mapping, sampling, soil grid survey, and IP surveys as well, that really further, made us even more bullish into the prospectivity of the areas that we've properly evaluated, which I mentioned before. It's really what we've properly evaluated is it's a very small percentage of our land package, 5 to 10%, and we have a very prospective land package. So
Marco, one last thing, and we didn't talk about it earlier, is really that mine permit that you have already. Like, I'm curious what that allows you. Um, it doesn't sound like, and then maybe that's my opinion based on what we're just talked about. Like, it doesn't play a major role in what you're doing right now. It might be a bit too early to sort of consider restarting a mine here, but I'm curious, like, what would it allow you to do, and like, what's the optionality there that you have?
well, this we have actually two mine exact permits. We have one mine permit in and around the Torres deposit. So it covers most of the Torres deposit into the east of the Torres deposit, including the former East Torres mine, as well as two tailings facilities we have on that specific mine permit in the former mill site. So that really puts us years and years ahead in permitting timelines. Um, and but for the bulk tonnage, I don't think that's the most immediate opportunity, in the sense that for the bulk tonnage material, the open pit material at the Torres deposit, you really need a bigger mill, and the mill size will be defined by how big in terms of a profile of production uh, are you looking for, which will be a consequence of how many ounces we were able to define and how many ounces you want to progress to upgrade. Our second mine permit, the Table Mountain mine permit, which is actually significantly larger, is a 20 square kilometer mine permit. It covers the past producing mines at Cassiar South, the main Vola, Cusack, Bain mines. It also covers another additional two tailings facilities, as well as the 300 ton per day mill site, as well as all the infrastructure that surrounds it and supports it. 25 kilometers of underground workings. 15 of the portals are in the Cassiar South a table mounted mine permit. All the power lines that connect to those portals. And there actually we have a bigger potential for a near-term development opportunity. We don't officially have a resource at the Table Mountain Cassiar South, but we have a lot of high-grade veins that are mineralized and unmined that we've been extending very successfully, because actually the 25 kilometers of underground workings, a lot of them take us straight into the high-grade veins. For example, at the Bain vein system, we have an underground working that gets to up to 50 meters away from the high-grade mineralized and mined vein. 70 meters away from that underground, from the end of that underground working, we have a 4.8 meter intercept at 35 grams per ton. And we've been extending not only that vein system, but the other vein systems as well. So on that particular part of the property, the opportunity is to find, and I mentioned in the beginning kind of the grades that you see at this part of our property. The main mine produced at 17 grams per ton, 150,000 ounces. And Cusack produced 90,000 ounces at just over 20 grams. So our goal there will be to define a 300 to 500,000 ounce high grade inventory of around 20 grams per ton. The goal will be to, if you're putting 20 gram per ton material on that mill, and we know that the recoveries there historically were over 90%, it's free milling material for the most part. There's an opportunity to be producing 60, 70,000 ounces potential production profile per year. So that's really something that wouldn't be that exciting for a mid-tier or major. It's not the kind of ounces that move the needle, but for a company our size will be quite transformational. So it's a potential path to cash flow, and we have all the components, so to speak, to get that. So we have the mine permit. We have a fully owned and permitted mill that has the permits associated with it as well. We have the infrastructure. We have basically these. We know where there's four of the vein systems that we've been extending along strike. These are east-west vein systems. And then we know as well the potential for discovery in that area. There's tremendous potential for discovery. So there's a big price to be had. What we need there, we need to see that exploration success to basically build us a high-grade inventory that puts us in a comfortable position to really assess and progress into a development scenario. Development and production, it's serious business. We have a well-rounded team that's experienced in discovering, building, operating, selling mines all over the world. So we know what it takes, and we want to make sure we do it right, because we think as shareholders, and we don't want to take any undue risks, because one of the reasons we have this project is one of the past operators trying to rush into production, and they couldn't refinance with a cost overrun, so they had to pass on the property. So we'll definitely won't be making the same mistakes as in the past, and but we can certainly see the opportunity here.
No, fantastic. Very, very last question here. Sheep Creek, how much of a role does it play in 2024? That's your secondary asset also in BC. How much of a role does it play this year?
Well, to be honest, not much. It's an extremely valuable secondary asset to have. This is a district, Sheep Creek. This is located in southern BC, by the way. It's a bit quite far from our flagship, which is located in northern BC. So this is a district that has produced until 1951 nearly 750,000 ounces at nearly 15 grams per ton. This is very high grade. These are shear vein system, skinnier veins at what you see at the Cassiar South, but similar to the Cassiar South, but skinnier. They're only 2 meter wide veins. They're very high grade, very prospective. We won't be doing any. We don't have any plans to do anything there this year, but we know the value of an asset like this, of a district like this, and I do know, I'm extremely confident that this is going to generate shareholder value for us in the future. But because we're so much more advanced at Cassiar Gold Project and we can really move the needle, and we need to really maximize the value for our shareholders. 100% of our focus right now is the Cassiar Gold Project, but there's a lot of ways to generate value here. We can drill this in the future. We could potentially JV this out or option this out. We can spin this out in Newco or to another company. There's a lot of opportunity with this asset. It's quite an exciting secondary asset to have.
No, fantastic, awesome, Marco. Very, very last question. Next catalysts, as retail shareholders, of course, we always want to know what the next press release is. When is it going to hit? What are the next news items that we can expect from Cassiar Gold here?
Well, right now, like we're already, like we're extremely focused on planning for the 2024 season. So you'll probably see some news on the 2024 plan. So what I can tell you right away was we'll open camp in May, and our plan is to start drilling, right in the beginning of June. From what I see this year in terms of the market. I can see the financing activity has been very slow. I can see that a lot of companies are really struggling. No plans to drill or or limited cash to do any activities. So I'm expecting that probably the labs won't be very busy. So if that's the case, we can potentially even start to see some results as early as August. But let's see, what the gold price does and how much competition that brings in terms of assay turnaround with the labs or even through the drill bit. But it's a tough market out there, but that also creates the opportunity for companies that are advancing their projects to really stand out because there's a lot less noise around us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just opened our Orin Inc. Website here as well, and I'm looking at the latest financings. It's a bit rude because it starts off with $100 million financing by Caliber, but
Yeah.
then everything else is 900,000, 500,000, 600,000. So still a lot of small programs, a lot of lights on financings, and you have cash. You can advance your projects. Fantastic, Marco. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Gold Newsletter. Really, really in depth. This is way more. We went way more in depth than I wanted to go, which is great. A really good conversation. We'll definitely have you back once you open up the camp, once you've announced some drill plans for this year, and get some excitement going here as well. So really appreciate that, and everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode here of the Gold Newsletter. As I said, we were joined by Marco Roque. He's the president and CEO over at Cassiar Gold. Make sure to follow the company. Follow us here, of course, as well. We're doing these interviews to educate you, to get as much information about a company out as we can do. Of course, this was an introductory interview. This was an introduction. We'll dive a lot deeper on the next one. We'll talk a bit more metallurgy, geology, and of course, targets that they're chasing. What are the immediate impacts, and where are they drilling? What's the wildcat drilling? And what's the opportunity, of course, as well. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can catch the updates, and we'll be back with lots more here on the Gold Newsletter channel. Thank you so much.